Ever find yourself waiting endlessly at a big box pharmacy, feeling like just another number? There's a better way. At Tablet Pharmacy, they provide the personalized service you deserve. Check their competitive prices online at tabletpharmacy.ca before you even leave home. They offer free delivery and blister packaging options to make managing your medications easier than ever. With convenient locations in Parksville, Qualicum Beach, and now open in Nanaimo near the Brick, Tablet Pharmacy has been serving Vancouver Island since 2019. Stop being just a prescription number. Experience the Tablet Pharmacy difference today. Visit them online and check their prices at tabletpharmacy.ca.
Here come Peter, here comes Dave. Oh, listen. Bringing stories, making waves, no missing. Spinning tales in the podcast cave, so sweet. Laughs and insights everywhere, what a treat. Peter and Dave, they're on the mics, all right. Join the ride, it's gonna feel just right.
And away we go. Welcome to the Pulse Community Podcast. It's hosted by a couple of guys with backgrounds in broadcasting and print. You could say we are multimediaists. Is that a word? Multimediaists? I suppose not, but you get the idea. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to introduce my co-host, Peter McCulley.
As a former newspaper publisher, I generally discourage the use of made-up words, but I do appreciate the effort, my well-meaning friend, otherwise known as former radio host Dave Graham.
Thanks, Peter. Super grateful to be here. That's my theme this week, and it was prompted by my underwear.
I have an idea. Let's not go there.
Yes, underwear and otherwear. You see, my clothes washer went on the fritz recently. For a while, I was taking my clothes to a laundromat. It's not something I've done in decades. Now I have a new washer, and I'm super mega grateful for the simple convenience of being able to wash my own clothes in my own home. That got me thinking about gratitude and not taking things for granted. The couch I'm sitting on right now is really nicely cushioned. My butt is really pleased by this.
That's nice, Dave. Could we get back to business? On this edition, we'll be chatting with Chris Denford, president of Berwick Retirement Communities. Berwick Qualicum Beach has been honored as a top senior living community in North America for the third time.
We've had many people move in over the years who have said, I wish I'd done this 5 years earlier because I have so many new friends. In fact, we've had a few people recently say, I've actually gained more new friends in the last year I've moved in than I have in the past 20 years. It's all about remaining engaged in your community. You're not there to pass time. You're there to remain connected and engaged. And our residents do that. They are still passionate about politics, about still learning, and we give them every opportunity to do that.
Also on the program, Sam Wiebe of New Westminster, an award-winning and best-selling author. He's won a couple of Crime Writers of Canada awards. Wiebe joins the podcast to talk about The Last Exile. It's the latest Wakeland novel set in Vancouver.
False Creek and the Granville Island market and the houseboats there play a big part in the book. That's a really interesting area to me because when I was growing up, that was a real bohemian, working class, artsy district. And now it is the center of gentrification and wealth in Vancouver. And that waterfront is being developed as we speak. Just the history at play there is very interesting to write about.
Hey, Dave, have you heard the latest dirt?
I'm so glad you asked. Now that I have a new clothes washer, I'm ready for all kinds of soiled things. Bring on the dirt.
Well, I'm talking about the Meadowood Store's garden center, and it's not just dirt. It's manures and fertilizers as well.
Just checking the instructions from my washer. They don't specifically mention manure, but I'm sure that won't be a problem.
This is dirt for gardening, Dave, not for you to roll in. And besides, they also have a fabulous selection of starter plants and veggies.
Now, that's what I need. I'm no green thumb, so starter plants would probably be the way to go for me.
Chris Berger is pretty serious about his dirt, and he says he'll match sale prices just about anywhere.
Isn't this where you say he won't be undersoiled? No, but seriously, it's such a great drive to Meadowood, and the bargains are tariff-free.
The bargains are big. Bigfoot big.
And our thanks to the Meadowood Store Garden Center, a sponsor of the Pulse podcast. The Meadowood Store Garden Center, they dig what you plant. Make sure you have your picture taken with Bigfoot while you're there.
If you would like a weekly email reminder of the latest Pulse podcasts and contests, just head over to thepulsecommunity.ca. That's where you'll also find the links for submitting our feedback. You can send us a voicemail, email, or text. We'd be delighted to hear from you.
Speaking of gratitude, I was in a minor car crash a few weeks ago. Nobody was hurt, and I wasn't at fault, but I'm actually glad that it happened. My aging car was written off, and now I drive a newer, nicer vehicle, and I'm grateful that it happened when it did before this whole tariff business sparked up. I tell you, I'm lucky, lucky, lucky. Oh, I also had the pleasure of sitting down recently for a chat with Ken Shelley of Qualicum Beach. Ken is the owner of the SS Minnow, the iconic boat from the Gilligan's Island television series. That conversation will be featured in an upcoming edition of the Pulse podcast.
We'll also be chatting with Gord Johns, Member of Parliament for Courtenay Alberni, Sean McCann, formerly of Great Big Sea, and Michelle Stilwell, former MLA and one of Canada's most decorated athletes. She'll be joining us in advance of Accessibility Week.
Have you heard we're giving away tickets to see Chilliwack? Have you entered? Even more important, they're bringing their farewell tour to Parksville July 12th. To enter the draw, just navigate your browser to thepulsecommunity.ca. Follow the link. We'll be making a draw at the end of the month.
Ian Lindsay of Lindsay and Associates has played an active role in the local community since 1979. He has been with RE/MAX, Vancouver Island's most advanced real estate business network, since 1996, marketing and selling residential, rural, strata, recreational, investment, and project development real estate. Ian has received several awards recognizing his exceptional community commitment locally, as well as awards for outstanding performance and achievement from both RE/MAX International and the Vancouver Island Real Estate Board. You'll find true real estate professionals at ianlindsay.ca.
For 57 years, SOS has helped ease social isolation and strengthen our community by connecting people of all ages to programs that support their well-being. For many years, the SOS bus has helped facilitate reliable and safe access to programs. Unfortunately, the bus has reached the end of the road. The SOS Connecting Community campaign aims to raise $200,000 to help purchase a new, safe, reliable bus that is essential in providing transportation to a variety of SOS programs. Seniors are taken on grocery shopping trips. Children are picked up from school so they may enjoy enriching, supportive programs, and families and youth are taken on exciting outings. Social connections can decrease anxiety and depression, enhance self-esteem, and improve overall health. For more information or to donate to the SOS Connecting Community campaign, visit sosd69.com.
Ah, the SOS, something else to be grateful about. What an amazing resource they are in our region. Thanks to the SOS for their sponsorship of the Pulse podcast. You know, we have limited opportunities to join in on the action. It's easy to get in touch through our website, or you could always try emailing Peter. His address is peter@thepulsecommunity.ca.
We're ready to bring on our first guest, and Marilyn is here to do the honors.
In the green room is Chris Denford, president of Berwick Communities. Berwick Qualicum Beach has been honored as a top senior living community in North America for the third time.
Chris, thanks for joining us on the podcast today.
Well, my pleasure.
Let's start at the start. Your dad, Gordon Denford, who is the founder of Berwick Retirement Communities, has been a builder in the greater Victoria area for many years.
He has, but I'll actually start a bit earlier than that because I think it's a bit of an interesting story. Dad was evacuated from England in 1940 as a 13-year-old. He didn't find out until the night before he was leaving that he was being evacuated. And in fact, he thought it was probably to the English countryside. He was sent to Canada. He didn't see his parents for 8 years. He had a lot of time on his own to kind of grow up on his own and become independent. That was sort of the start of Dad's really quite unique independence streak in him. The war ended, but he was so far into university, he declined the invitation to go back to England because he was already here in studies and had friends. So he opted to stay. So eventually he moved out to Victoria, and he was one of the first guys to bring in electric baseboard heat to homes on the island. He would catch a bus and go out to various job sites and propose that they think about electric baseboard heating. He would do that, and he would hire an electrician, and eventually it became a very large company. It was the largest contractor on the island and distributing baseboard heat as well. As time went by, he started to really diversify into other trades as well. He did Denford metals, a lot of mechanical stuff, structural steel, even building aluminum fish boats. And that morphed into road construction. Capital City Construction did curbs and gutters, and they did the first stage of Gastown in Vancouver. They built a lot of roads and curbs and gutters all over Vancouver and Victoria. As he was a trade for all these years, eventually that led into creating his own projects. So he would build apartment buildings, subdivisions. In fact, back in the mid-60s, he created the first strata development on Vancouver Island. It was actually strata plan number 4 in the province, a townhouse development in Victoria. The Royal Bank actually sent out a rep from Toronto to take a look at this newfangled idea of ownership within one building, like sectional ownership. It was quite new to them. So he's always been kind of on the cutting edge of new things. Back in the mid-70s, when he teamed up with a friend of his to plan and develop a planned community called Summergate Village, which is near the Victoria Airport. It was a planned community of prefabricated homes, 240, with its own rec center. It had a pool, it had a dance hall, it had all sorts of places for the community to come together. What he thought would be a project that would sell to empty nesters that would maybe buy a Florida house as well. Really, the market was much older people, that a lot of single ladies who had lost their husbands, who were living in condos, decided that they were kind of lonely. They didn't even know the person down the hall. And the idea of living in a community with its own rec center really appealed to them. So that got Dad thinking, there must be a better way to do something more efficiently in a purpose-built project that would cater to people who have loneliness and want to remain engaged and connected. So that led to Dad forming a committee of some experts in the field of seniors housing back in the mid-'80s, and we planned Berwick House. So Berwick House was our first project. I was just out of university, so I wasn't much help. We opened Berwick House in 1989, and what's funny is, it's been a long journey since then, but when you look back, a lot of people, when they were thinking about retiring, they're thinking about retiring when they hit 60, sometimes 55, or they start slowing down and they have a target date that they're going to slow down at 60 and be out of it by 63. Well, Dad founded Berwick Retirement Communities when he was 62. That often surprises people. Our largest business that we have, our main focus is Berwick, and Dad founded that when he was 62. So I'm only 61, so I guess there's hope for me.
And your dad is now 97?
97. He had a major fall a few years back, but he's still very active, and he comes into the office as much as he can, and he wants to remain engaged. He is spending a lot of time at Berwick Royal Oak. He has an apartment there that has lots of supports for him. I know there's an expression, don't get high on your own supply, but Dad is really enjoying living in a Berwick.
How many Berwick locations are there now?
We have 8 now. The last one that we opened was in Parksville, 7 on the island, and we have 1 in Kamloops as well.
What inspired you to create Berwick Qualicum Beach, and how did you identify Qualicum Beach as the ideal location?
As we started developing on the island, we hit some of the major centers first. After Victoria, Nanaimo was the logical next step. As we went through Nanaimo, we built another one in Victoria. We built one in Comox. We always knew that Qualicum Beach and Parksville were beautiful retirement locations. After we built Berwick on the Lake in 1999, the mayor of Qualicum Beach, Tunis, approached Dad and said, I just took a look at Berwick on the Lake. You need to build something like that in Qualicum Beach. And that planted the initial seed. At the time, we were already occupied in other projects. And the other aspect was that Qualicum Beach wasn't quite large enough in terms of population to really go in there and do what we do, because we have to rely on a certain level of economies of scale. We kind of put that on the back burner, but we always knew that one day we wanted to go back and build something in Qualicum. So fast forward to 2017-18, and a friend of Dad's, Wayne Stranglin, owned a site in Qualicum Beach, and had a condo project planned, but his partner passed away suddenly. So Wayne wanted to not proceed because he lost his partner. So he approached Dad and said to Dad, do you want our site? Dad was always intrigued with Qualicum. This is just one example. It's funny, I was in a retreat that weekend when he met with Wayne. And by the time I got out of the retreat, Dad called me and said, I just bought a site in Qualicum Beach. So it's like, wow, that was fast. Our site that we managed to purchase is right on center ice, if you want to call it that. It's right in the town core. We felt that to really benefit from everything that Qualicum Beach has to offer, especially the walkability of it and being connected, we really wanted to be in the core. So we had the site. Then it became, how do we plan and propose something in that community that will really have a good success, not just long-term success, but to be able to get past the municipal process.
Are there any specific design principles or maybe a philosophy that guides the development of Berwick Qualicum Beach?
I've always been a big fan of the English arts and crafts movement. And looking at the town of Qualicum Beach, some of the early buildings were designed by an architect named Carl Spurgeon, who was an Englishman that retired in Victoria, but he had a major impact on Qualicum Beach. And what made it more personal for us was that our family home that my wife and I raised our 4 kids in is a Carl Spurgeon designed house. That got me thinking that really to pay homage to the history of Qualicum Beach, I think that approach to design made a lot of sense. So we focused on the English arts and crafts movement, but with a Canadian twist, of course, because it's always a bit morphed. The site that we have is an acre. So it's by far our smallest site. So we had to really, really plan carefully in order to get all of the things that we need to have in that building for our seniors to enjoy. It really required a lot of in-depth planning and figuring and how do we fit this big puzzle into this 1 acre site. Part of the other issue was because we needed a certain height, we needed to convince the community that what we were proposing had merit. In a lot of my travels, I love traveling in England, and quite often a town or a village will have a manor house that's a significant home in the community that becomes a little bit of a pride of the community. Sometimes they have functions or events happen in these manor houses. So what I suggested to the town council was that what we are proposing is actually the manor house for the town of Qualicum Beach. Even though it's not a 2-story building, it's 5 stories, but it is the manor house where it could be the social hub of the community. So a lot of the elements of the English arts and crafts movement that really screams manor house and not big apartment building. That was sort of the guiding principles that went into the design, and we built it and we've never looked back. It's been a huge success.
Well, Chris, I've had the pleasure of meandering through 4 of your locations, Nanaimo, Comox, Parksville, and Qualicum Beach. And Berwick Qualicum Beach has received recognition 3 times as one of North America's best retirement communities. What features or aspects do you believe contributed most to those accolades that you've been awarded?
It's a combination of design and people. Berwick Qualicum Beach, every square inch of that building is designed to maximize the resident experience. This is just one example. I've been into some very high-end projects where a pub, it's a room with drywall walls and a couple of tables, and that's their pub. When we do a pub, it's designed with wood wainscoting, beams, stained glass windows that are built the old school way. They're filled with antiques. We have 19th century oil paintings throughout. So you really feel like you're actually walking out of the building and walking into an authentic English pub. All over the building, for every space that we do, it's meant to maximize the ability for people to have social connections. The fitness center goes well beyond the fitness center. It's all the other spaces that really tackle wellness in a holistic way. It's not just being physically active, it's being mentally active. The whole building is designed to really create opportunities for staying very active, engaged, and maximizing wellness. And then the flip side of that is, of course, our active living program. And Laurel, who is the head of the active living program, is very innovative. It's not a question of Tuesday is chair yoga and then the next day it's bingo. There's a lot more innovative programming that goes into it that offers something for everyone. We have paddleboarding. We've had pole dancing. We have relationships with the University of Alberta for more learning opportunities. So it's that, plus it's a 7-day program where most offer maybe a 5-day program. So it's all about the right facilities that have all the opportunities for staying engaged and really interested in what's going on, and the active living program that we offer.
So, Chris, it sounds like you've created a real sense of community for your residents. What feedback from the residents has perhaps surprised you most, and how have you adapted based on that resident input?
Along the way, as we designed our buildings and built them, and we had residents live in them and give us feedback, Berwick Qualicum Beach was our 6th community. It allowed us to take the best of what we learned from the previous 6. It's all about flow of spaces. It's the right spaces, where they're located, how they're designed, what functions can happen in those spaces, whether it be happy hour or maybe a special dining event that happens on the rooftop lounge. You have to plan to be able to accommodate that. The other aspect that's been kind of interesting is we've learned that over the years that a lot of our residents, when they move in, they discover hidden talents that they didn't even know they had. Whether it be they're an artist or they're an orator or they can act in a play and be a convincing actress or actor. These are things that have emerged because they've moved in. And because of that feedback too, we're able to really design the next spaces to really cater to people with hidden talents. Just one example is with Parksville, because art is something that a lot of our residents have really expressed an interest in and discovered talents they didn't have. We actually built a purpose-built art pavilion in the gardens of Berwick Parksville. So we're always learning new things, and we try to incorporate some really neat spaces that can really capitalize on that in anything we do.
I must say I was very impressed with the artwork in all of the locations that I had the chance to drop into. And it seems like the artwork is based on the area.
It is. In Parksville and Qualicum, we took the approach to decorate the hallways for the suites with locally commissioned photographs of interesting landmarks or spaces or places within the community itself. So we have in Qualicum Beach, probably a good 250 large 3-foot by 3-foot commissioned photographs of various places within Qualicum Beach itself and its surroundings. And it's kind of a fun thing for our residents to be able to pass by and say, oh, I remember that place, or that's one of my favorite spots in the community. So we did that in both Qualicum and Parksville. We have probably about 700 pieces of art in Qualicum Beach that are framed pieces of art. And whenever we're creating a new Berwick, I usually stockpile 3 or 4 years in advance.
You've been at this a while now. How have you seen the retirement living industry evolve since you began creating Berwicks?
When we first opened Berwick House, the emphasis on amenity spaces and social spaces was not as developed as it is today. And of course, as we're approaching the boomers, they're expecting a lot more. But when we opened Berwick House, we had one option for meals, and that was in the main dining room with 3 choices. Over the years, the major evolution in retirement housing has really been around choice. And a big part of that is choice in food services. As we've built more and learned more, we've added more in terms of choice. So now we're offering 3 choices of dining options. The main dining room, and then we have a bistro, which has its own menu with choices. In most cases, we have a pub with its own menu as well. That's been one of the biggest evolutions in seniors housing. And that's not just for us, that's across the board.
What misconceptions do people often have about retirement communities that you're working to address with Berwicks?
Well, I think traditionally, and I think this harkens back to the dark days of the 60s and 70s, where a retirement residence was a place to spend your remaining days just counting the clicks of the clock. It's the farthest thing from the truth, because we've had many people move in over the years who have said, I wish I'd done this 5 years earlier because I have so many new friends. In fact, we've had a few people recently say, I've actually gained more new friends in the last year I've moved in than I have in the past 20 years. It's all about remaining engaged in your community. You're not there to pass time. You're there to remain connected and engaged. And our residents do that. They are still passionate about politics, about still learning. And we give them every opportunity to do that because we create the right environment. We have the right programs. We bring in people from outside the community to offer talks or to give performances. So people are engaged, and they're more engaged in many cases they have been in years.
Are there any emerging trends that you see in senior living that you're excited about or planning to incorporate into the Berwick plan?
Yeah, and some of it's beyond my area of expertise, but I know that our team is looking at constructive AI opportunities. A lot of it is also involving apps that are perhaps really, really useful for our residents to be able to utilize to either book a car or book the private dining room. It's all about making things easier and more at their fingertips so that they can do that from the privacy and comfort of their own suite. They can set things up very easily. So there's a lot of tech things that are being implemented fairly soon that I think is going to be great.
AI is wonderful. We're not really chatting right now. This is the AI version of me. I'm at Dave's with my feet up watching the hockey game.
Oh, okay.
Chris, what's been the most rewarding aspect of creating and operating Berwick Qualicum Beach?
Well, there's a number of different aspects to that. That's a good question because in the one sense, and I'll share this because I think it's interesting, Berwick Qualicum Beach doesn't really hit the right criteria for a slam dunk development because of its size. It really should be 50% larger in terms of suites because, after all, we have the same amenity spaces. We have usually 105, 110, 115 residents at any time, and we have around 75 staff members. With a much larger building, it wouldn't be 150 staff. It would be somewhat less. So it doesn't hit the economies of scale. But for us, that really didn't matter. We love Qualicum Beach. We felt it was a chance for us to create something special there that didn't exist and cater to people that didn't really have that niche option that we offer. So that was part of the fun, and creating an English arts and crafts manor house is right up my alley. So that's one aspect of it. I know that we have become a major important member of the community in terms of being able to host events. We have a lot of community groups come in, utilize our amenities, our spaces. We have a lot of fundraising events happening in the building. We are an engaged and connected and happy participant in the success of the community. So that's been really a rewarding thing. We had a few skeptics, I guess, when we were planning and proposing and even in the early stages of building. But I think most people have come around to realize that what we're offering is something special and it's a vital part of the community. And from my own personal standpoint is whenever I walk into most of our buildings, I often have people come up and say, thank you so much for building Berwick in our community because I'm so happy here and my family's happy here. My family loves to visit and spend time with us here because of all the great spaces. Grandchildren love to go and have a pint with their grandfather in the pub. Just to even look at the artwork. There's so many great opportunities for our residents to stay connected with the community, but also their families. So when they tell me that, and they say that to my dad as well, because dad is still roaming the halls and he gets stopped all the time, people are genuinely thankful that we've created a Berwick in their community, and that's really rewarding.
Chris, thanks for your time today. And again, congratulations on being honored as a top senior living community in North America for the third time.
Thanks, Peter. It was fun talking to you.
Our thanks to Chris Denford and Berwick Retirement Communities. There's another reason for gratitude, that we should have a nationally recognized facility within our region. I want to take a moment to acknowledge my thanks to Jeremy Humphreysville and the crew at Coastal Carving's Fine Art Gallery in Coombs. I happened to drop in this past weekend to offer my congratulations and support for their 20th anniversary celebration. I'm grateful for the gallery and the inspiring creations featured within. And the APTN film crew was on hand as well to cover the event. Jeremy told me that this marked the end of filming for the second season. The first season will debut this fall.
We've added a new kid story to our growing collection of tales in our Skookum Kid Story series. The kids will want to check out the latest adventure of the Mellow Submarine as Captain Dave and his crew of marine creatures visit Miracle Beach. Be listening for Captain Dave and the mystery of the missing sand dollars, narrated by Dave Graham.
And then there's Peter and Gracie, Gracie the Eskimo dog. Their latest exploits involve a visit to a place where veggies grow and Bigfoot roams? What? To find out just what happened, go to thepulsecommunity.ca for that and all the other stories. They're also available at skookumkids.com and the usual spots: Apple, YouTube, Spotify, iHeart, and Amazon.
There's exciting news for book lovers. Fireside Books in Parksville now has a second location in Port Alberni, the Bookworm. Used books are just $5 each, and be sure to ask about their volume discounts. The Bookworm on the corner of Redford and Anderson opens 7 days a week from 10 to 5. Fireside Books at 464 Island Highway East in Parksville is a book dragon's dream come true. Browse their extensive collection weekdays from 9 to 6 and weekends 10 to 5. Both locations make growing your personal library easier than ever. New books, used books, activity books, puzzle books, and much more. Order online at firesidebooks.ca, and your books will be waiting when you arrive. Ask about returning books for a book credit. Fireside Books and the Bookworm. 2 locations, one amazing adventure in browsing.
The Meadowood Store's Garden Center is jam-packed with starter plants and veggies, bagged soils, manures, and fertilizers. Chris Berger says he won't be undersoiled. The folks at the Meadowood Store Garden Center will match sales prices just about anywhere. Kids, come and add a painted rock to make Rocky the Rock's snake grow longer. Enjoy the relaxing drive to Meadowood, where the bargains are tariff-free and are big. Bigfoot big. The Meadowood General Store in Dashwood is the home of Bigfoot. It's a convenient spot for beer, wine, and spirits, groceries, deli, propane, and lotto. Come in and have your picture taken with Bigfoot inside or outside the store at 1221 Meadowood Way in Dashwood.
Got an attitude of gratitude going this week. Just happy to be here, doing this podcast from one of the best places on earth. I was down in the community park the other day, saw that a big area next to the volleyball courts had been fenced off, and I'm guessing it marks the outline of what will become the site of the Parksville Beach Festival sand sculpting event. Oh, I can't wait. Opening day, Friday, July 11th. I'm grateful that I'll be there through the weekend cranking out the tunes. Oh, please drop by, say hello if you happen to be visiting the festival. By the way, on the topic of music, we are planning a special edition of the Pulse podcast to mark summertime here in Paradise. We're going to do a music special featuring a specially curated collection of the finest summer songs ever made. It's a little something we're working on and looking forward to. But right now, it's time for another guest. Marilyn, do tell.
In the green room is award-winning author Sam Wiebe of New Westminster, who is an award-winning and best-selling author of Pacific Northwest crime fiction. He's won the Kobo Emerging Writers Prize and 2 Crime Writers of Canada awards. Wiebe joins the podcast to talk about The Last Exile, a Wakeland novel set in Vancouver.
Thanks for joining us today, Sam.
My pleasure.
Perhaps you could give us an overview about your book, The Last Exile. It's your latest in a series of novels about private investigator Dave Wakeland. And I think it's fair to say you've created a complex character with a troubled past.
Thank you so much, Peter. The Last Exile is Dave Wakeland's return to Vancouver. So at the end of the 4th book, he has to make a choice of whether to stay or go. And spoiler alert, he goes. The Last Exile is his return. I tried to think of a case that would be large enough and significant enough to bring him back, but also might contain something that would make him want to stay. He ends up working to get an East Van woman named Maggie Zito out of prison. She has been arrested and falsely accused with the murder of a retired gangster and his wife. Every moment she's in custody, she is liable to be murdered by that gangster's buddies. So Wakeland has to get her out as soon as he can and will go to any length to do that.
It could be said that the main character, Wakeland, makes a number of questionable moral decisions. He might even be a little reckless.
Well, I think after the pandemic, everyone's reckless, aren't they? I think the thing about Wakeland is that he looks at this woman, Maggie Zito, who's been falsely accused of murder, and she's in prison. And it's really a ticking clock of, can I get her out of prison before the biker gang can have her killed? But she also starts to represent something to him, which is the kind of working class heart of Vancouver, which I think was something that he was very discouraged and broken up about in the last book. So it's kind of like finding something to fight for and to stay in the city, even though gentrification and all these other social evils are going on.
And as you say, the book is set in Vancouver, and those novels, the Wakeland series, tackle very serious social issues like missing women, drug addiction, and wealth inequality, as you mentioned. So how do you approach those topics?
Invisible Dead, the very first book, took on the topic of murdered and missing women. And because that's such a huge topic and I didn't feel right addressing it, I just focused on the disappearance of one woman and had Wakeland searching for her and trying to find out what happened to cause her to disappear, and sort of using that to interrogate all the systems in the city. By this book, it's more about trying to catch, a snapshot of Vancouver in 2025. What is it like to live here? What are the forces that are making it so difficult for people? And a lot of that is, just the grinding inequality. It's also some of the choices that we've made as a society of what to care about and who to listen to.
Sam, one of the things I enjoy about the Wakeland series being set in Vancouver is that I can identify with some of these geographical locations that you describe. For instance, in this book, I can see Granville Island when you're talking about it.
I think that that's something that people who visited Vancouver or who've read or heard about it or just seen it as the background of a bunch of American TV shows can kind of get behind. False Creek and the Granville Island market and the houseboats there play a big part in the book. That's a really interesting area to me because when I was growing up, that was a real, bohemian, working class, artsy district. And now it is the center of gentrification and wealth in Vancouver. And that waterfront is being developed as we speak. Just the history at play there is very interesting to read about.
How do you balance showcasing Vancouver's appeal while also highlighting those social problems?
I think that the tension between those things is what's really cool. It's not showing Vancouver as a beautiful tourist place, and it's not showing it as a cesspool. It's showing the way that it feels to live here. That involves some really ugly parts that we might like to overlook, but also the sort of everyday beauties that maybe people from out of town don't quite get to see.
Did you grow up in and around Vancouver?
Yes, born here, grew up here, live here, and I've tried to move away several times, but it keeps holding me.
So your own relationship with the city has influenced how your character Wakeland experiences and navigates it.
Oh, definitely. When I was writing the fourth book, Sunset in Jericho, I was very upset at the state of Vancouver and just walking home past these real estate billboards that say, you don't need $1 million to buy a home here. You only need 850 grand. And going to my teaching job, and, that definitely influenced it. And in the new one, there's a lot of that too. It's still very tough and very politically divided. But I also did want to focus on some of the things that I like about it and some of the sort of hidden spots. So I do try to just show people, how I see Vancouver.
Beyond the Wakeland series, are there other aspects of Vancouver or types of characters that you're interested in exploring in future books?
I wrote a standalone that came out last year called Ocean Drive, which is set in the small town of White Rock, BC. It's right on the border. And it was looking at transnational crime and, things moving across the border. I have a series under a pen name about a chief of police in Blaine, Washington, which is also along the border. They're just different aspects of the mystery novel. One's a little bit more of a straight crime novel, and then the Nolan Chase series is a kind of a small town mystery in the vein of Longmire.
So your writing has been described as gritty and noir. Can you tell us how you developed that writing style and what drew you to the genre?
Well, I think what drew me to this genre was that it was very entertaining, but it also seemed to contain an element of truth. So unlike some genres that are kind of set in like imaginary worlds, there's an aspect of noir and crime fiction that's palpably part of our everyday life that we don't see. And I just loved that. Going back to the old Dashiell Hammett and Raymond Chandler novels up through Sue Grafton, Walter Mosley, Dennis Lehane. I mean, there's so many great writers who've used that as a way to look at cities, to look at, families and interpersonal relationships and what happens with the environment. I just think it's a way to be incredibly entertaining, but also talk about real things.
Will Dave Wakeland make it to a little screen or a big screen near us?
The Wakeland series has been auctioned twice now. The rights just reverted to me. There was a big strike about a year and a half ago over some of the fears around AI, which are very real. By the time we came back from the strike, the production company that was interested had closed. All the executives have been laid off. So I don't know. I think that there is a real appeal to a show like this. And I look at the British TV shows like Luther and Vera, and I just think, somebody could do that with Wakeland very easily, especially with, such a lush locale as Vancouver. But I might be the only one. It might just be me.
Well, Sam, you won the Kobo Emerging Writers Prize probably 10 years ago. How many books have you written since then?
Enough that I'm no longer emerging.
Can you talk a little bit about your writing process and how you approach writing a novel?
Yeah, I write by hand. I wake up really early in the morning. I help get my wife ready for work. She's an electrician, so we're up at like 4:30. And I feed the cat, make the coffee, make her lunch, and then I just sit down and work. And then I'll type things up as I go and then revise it. It takes about a year to write a book, with a period of writing the draft and then revising it a couple times. I try to approach it like a real job, which, to me it is. And the writers that I loved growing up were like the pulp writers who basically looked at it as, I don't come from money. I don't have a great safety net. So either I get something done today or I go and work in, my father-in-law's Saab dealership. Like there's no third choice. So I just try to approach it like a real job and put in the hours.
And what about those little bits of ideas? When do they hit? They don't hit like 9 to 5. You could be out driving around and look for the Post-it notes or send yourself an email.
Oh, absolutely. Just reading the newspaper, you get ideas, and there's all sorts of stuff that just comes in. So yeah, I mean, that part is just working all the time.
Yeah. And you have to keep that organized, I guess.
One would hope, but I tend to fill up notebooks and then never look at them. If an idea is really good, it kind of percolates and then insists upon coming out.
What do you like to do when you're not writing, Sam?
Walk around, pet the cat. My wife and I are big movie buffs, so, we like to watch old films. Just been watching a ton of Gene Hackman films since he died recently. Not very exciting, but writing is really sort of the glue that holds that together.
Do you see writing for the rest of your life?
I don't know how long I'm going to live, but I don't see a reason not to. I love doing it, and it's just this beautiful thing where you get to have a routine, but you also get to experience something new every day. And I just love that combination.
Sam, thank you very much for your time today. I'm a fan of the Wakeland series. I'm waiting for another.
Me too. I'm going to be working on it soon. Thank you so much, Peter.
Our thanks to Sam Wiebe for joining the Pulse podcast and for representing the West Coast in such a best-selling, award-winning way. Fans of the Wakeland series are welcoming Book 5, The Last Exile. Wow, look at the time. We're into our last moments of this podcast. Thanks, Peter, for another successful production. I really appreciate you. Thanks for all that you do to make this series possible. I love you, man.
Okay, Dave. Let's head to the cafeteria and I'll buy you a coffee.
I know you're grateful for me, right? So, hey, could you buy me lunch?
Well, let me check my allowance here just a second.
Okay, coffee and dessert then.
Oh, if you stop talking, I might buy you a cookie.
I'd be very grateful for a cookie. Maybe I could get a mocha with that. Could that be part of the deal? Or maybe an espresso? Can I have my choice of cookie? Oh, maybe 2. Can I have 2 cookies? No, I'd like to trade those 2 in for a brownie. How about that? No, a piece of pie. Cake! Yes, cake would be so good right now.
Here come Peter, here comes Dave. Oh, listen. Bringing stories, making waves. No missing. Spinning tales in the podcast cave. So laughs and insights. sights everywhere. What a treat. Peter and Dave, they're on the mic, so